All right, in this example video, what I'm going to show you how to do is to embed a graphic, rasterize it so that you can edit it, and then also resize and place the image. Now, I'm working with the previous file here where I had just placed an art piece here of a tree. Now, let's say though I decide, well, I want to import a picture of a flower. Now, if I navigate away from Photoshop for a minute here, you can actually see up on my desktop, I do have a little flower JPEG here. You can see the flower here. So the goal here is to take this graphic, pull it into the current Photoshop project, and be able to edit it. And I'd like to take out the background around the flower here. So I'm going to go back into Photoshop into my project here. When you're ready to import a graphic into a current working PSD document, you're going to want to come up to the File drop-down menu. And I would encourage you for starting out, I would do Place Embedded. Place Embedded will actually take this file and embed it into the project. The biggest con to this is you do this enough times, you can actually really change the file size of your overall project. However, the pro is you don't have to worry about organizing and keeping files linked to the overall project here and keeping the external file with the project. So what I'm going to do is I chose to place embedded from the file menu. We're going to go to this flower graphic and I'm going to choose to place. So what you see here now is number one, if I can draw your attention down to layers, notice that a brand new layer has been made specifically for this flower here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come back over into my workspace and I'm actually going to resize this. You should see this big long X box here and you should see small squares in each of the corners and on the tops, bottoms, left, and right. This is a free transform tool that will allow me to come in and I can actually choose an edge and just resize. So you can see how here is my cursor, but if I hover it right over one of those corners, you can see how it changes the edge. However, I can even go further out and I can have the cursor change into kind of a rotate tool where it'll actually rotate my flower for me. And then I can just click and drag to position the graphic how I want. Once you have the graphic in place that you think you like, you can come up to the top editor bar and you can commit the changes. Now, a question that I'll often get here from students is, well, what happens if I change my mind? I realize I need to actually edit it again or change the size or change the rotation. Making sure that you are still active on that layer, you can come up under the Edit drop-down menu and select Free Transform. That was the tool you were previously using. So you can click on that. Notice I have that box again, and maybe I want to try to straighten out my flower a little bit. I go ahead and hit the check mark again. It recommits my changes here. Now, the last step for editing as far as a graphic is concerned and being able to make changes to it is to change it to what is called a rasterized layer. This will take the image, convert it into a pixel-based layout that is consistent with the working Photoshop document. You can tell that you have what is called a smart object or non-rasterized layer by looking at your layer panel here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and zoom in for everyone here. Zooming in and looking at this layer panel here, you should see a small icon here. That small icon is denoting that you are working with a smart object. That means that you cannot make any edits to the overall graphic here, such as if I wanted to, for instance, cut out this portion of the flower. To change that, if I come in and back on this layer here, I'm just going to hover in the gray area and right click. There is an option here to rasterize the layer. You click on that and let me go ahead here. I'll zoom back in for everyone. You should now see that that little icon in the corner has been removed. I can now come in and actually edit my flower graphic. So going back to some of the selection tools, you could use your magic lasso if you wanted one of your lassos. You could work with the marquees if you like. Honestly, because of the contrast between the white petals and the blue-green background, I am going to give our object selection tool a shot. However, remember, as subtools, you also have the quick selection and the magic wand. So I'm going to go ahead and make a marquee selection. And voila, you can see that it really did a nice job here as far as hugging the overall edge of that graphic there. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here now is you have a couple of options. You could use your move tool now, and whenever I hover over the graphic here, you can see how I can actually cut out and move the flower somewhere else. Another option might be, though, let me go ahead and undo that. A lot of folks, what they will do is they will be working in the object select tool still, and they might right click on the area, and there is an option to select inverse. What the select inverse will allow you to do is it is going to make a selection, and it may be kind of hard to see, so let me zoom in. It is protecting this inner portion of your graphic, but notice how everything else on the layer here, you can see these marching ants right along the edge here. So now if I hit the delete key, you can see now I kind of removed overall from the background there. How you select and deselect something and delete is completely up to you. So now that I have that done, I can come back up to the select menu and I can choose to deselect all of my items. And now I just have the flower from the graphic that I want, and I can now add it as a decoration on my tree. And that is kind of the fundamentals of how you can go through and create composited images within Photoshop.